Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Show. Got another video for today. This is coming from the test server. This is the new episode 47, Brainiac Returns. We're looking at the 4-player elite version of the Alert Hall of Doom. Now, to kind of preface this commentary, I am water testing out the new John Stewart ally using Corpse Combo, which is the combo buff to even flow with water, as well as looking at the power usage as well. And you'll see, even despite Corpse Combo and using Oracle Bot, so I've got plenty of power return, I still run into, real big consistent power issues without taking a soda or relying on supply drop. So really the 15% power cost reduction for combos really isn't that noticeable. I know it's a bit more designed for like light or celestial, where you have multiple combos rather just like munitions or water where you have one combo. But still at the same time, I still have issues. And yes, it's running an alert without the controller, but you still have the rollless buff for power. Although I don't have the power tick over time, so that could be an issue as well in terms of just the actual instance being bugged. I know we'll get, if you see me blocking a later in alert, so that the healer properly applies, but I think I can't remember offhand with the alert rollless buff, if it was actually just a passive power return or if there's actually supposed to be a pot tick up. But either way, we're looking at the instance here. So this obviously the Hall of Doom with Brainiac Focus is going to be the same thing with Brainiac focused ads. We had those sentry bots too, that they were basically reminding me of the volcanic facility, where kind of that first kind of mini boss of those sentry bots, but they weren't actually a boss in this case. They just have much higher health than normal enemies. The other thing you'll see persistent throughout this alert is, I don't believe it's a test server related. I believe it's just the actual optimization of the alert itself, but I'm not sure how well it's going to come across in the recording. But there's massive FPS drops in here. You'll probably see some of it just as lag, but I rarely lag on any of these servers, either test server, EU server, US server. I rarely ever lag or have a delay. Sometimes if I'm PvPing, I'll slightly notice it. Maybe like, a fraction of a second or so on counters, but really absolutely no instance. Even in the European server where I'm playing basically across the world, don't have any sort of lag. But in this alert, it was just massive FPS drops. I can't imagine it for maybe some people, like the other group members here, my European friends. So I'm sure they were experiencing it much worse than I was. But in terms of first boss here, kind of the prevailing theme throughout this alert as well is these lasers. So the red one is damaging for health. There's a purple one that you're going to see that basically damages your health and pushes you back. And then there's a blue one that removes power. So really, Calculator Bot, this is kind of a straightforward fight. Calculator Bot himself isn't doing much. It's more just the room mechanics with the lasers, as well as the exploding bots, which you just turn their cogs and then the bombs up in the center. So there's clearly enough time. Maybe there'll be some extra mechanics added for Elite Plus, but as you'll see here, I would imagine it would be a group wipe or a death basically if you don't turn the cogs, because the bomb will just explode. But as you can see, it's really simple enough. You just spread out as a group. In this setup, we're using 3 DPS and a tank. We're not using a healer, at least for the first 2 boss fights. We do add a healer for the 3rd boss fight towards the end, which you'll see. But very straightforward. I'm trying to remember the Hall of Doom. I believe did we fight Calculator Bot before? That's the one issue with when they do use recycled content and it's Brainiac content that's been in the game for like 10, 11 years. It's hard to kind of remember where everything is. But at the same time, I know this is because, ironically enough, I'm more familiar with the Hall of Doom instance running in Legends, because if you're doing Legends PV, the Hall of Doom map was technically the fastest as long as you skip the ads. Which you'll see another issue coming up in this room, which is 100% feedback I'm going to leave. So similar to the Hall of Doom alert, or basically instance itself, you can't progress until you defeat all 4 sentry turrets each time, which I feel is unnecessary in this part, because it's the same thing. Every single room you have to kill all the security turrets, or the door doesn't even open to progress, which I feel is a bit overkill, especially for an alert. I mean, if you have to kill one, that's fine, or if it's going to keep you in combat and you have to kill it, which is probably just as annoying, so you want to defeat them anyway. So that's an issue. That's kind of a long-running issue with Hall of Doom because of the amount of ads too. So you're pretty much in combat or have the ability to be in combat the entire time unless you kill everything, which can be an issue with like swapping armories or changing any kind of loadout. It happens towards the end of the boss. You'll see I start the final boss in combat, because of this instance where I think we killed all the turrets, but I think it's the room itself just keeping you in combat. So really, that's the one thing. I feel some of it's kind of artificial difficulty where it's just kind of artificially extending the actual instance duration by having us, multiple rooms, killing all the ads, killing all the turrets to be able to proceed through the next room. So, I mean, alerts, because it's a daily reset, I don't feel like it should be an instance where it takes like 20 minutes, half an hour. That was a problem with like Curse House of Mystery Elite Plus or Elite, because of the giant health pools and how long the bosses took. It just feels like, when you have a daily commitment to run the alert and on all the other instance content, you just feel kind of like burnt out or worn out early, because of you're expecting every single day you're going to have to spend like 20 minutes, half an hour. This was really, if older players remember, but if you remember running like Arkham Asylum alert or even the Inner Sanctum alert when it came out, we're talking like 45 minutes. Like when Arkham Asylum alert came out, like we're talking like back in like 2010, 2011 at this point. No, sorry. 2011. But imagine running a daily alert that took like an hour and a half to complete. Like it was a bit excessive just because of the sheer mass of it. So second boss here, this is where we're going to see the FPS drops. This is massively unoptimized fight. There's giant issues with this fight. So same thing, we have the red lasers for health, we have the purple lasers for a knockback and damage. I forget if the blue lasers are in this fight. If they are, then it's just a power drain. But the issue is that, for one, Parasite can he has I'm pretty sure he has the self-heal mechanic where he does, if you get near him, he does like the zap, the drain attack, which is a massive like 300k damage to you, but I'm pretty sure he heals as well. But the issues that they've added to this fight is that you'll see these slow bots spawn. Now, these basically completely remove your movement mode. Now, like you're used to having like the if you see that foot icon on the top left, it's like basically movement debuff, and you move like pretty slow. This one is like tumbler level. Like you can't. The only way you can get around this room is by rolling, if the drone targets you. So the issue is that they instantly respawn as well, and there's multiple ones. So by the time you kill one, then it's constantly respawn. So there's no point. Like all you can do is pretty much target the boss. This makes it for like the worst experience ever for the tank, because obviously the slow bots are going to target they have basically not so much a grounding beam, but like basically a movement mode, a reduction mode basically. So you constantly have that on you. You can't move as the tank. All you can do is roll around. You still have to dodge Parasite, because in this case we're not running a healer, so then he still has that kind of acid spit attack, that channel, and then all his other attacks, and then the slow bots still do damage. So it's just a mess. Plus you have to, the other issue with removing your movement modes, as you can see, there's 4 lasers constantly moving around quite quickly. So you have to completely roll out of the way. I feel like you could certainly do this with a healer and have like 2 DPS healer and tank can be perfectly fine, because you'd be able to at least it turns into more like an endurance fight at that point. But you certainly have the safety of not having to worry about the beams at least. But there is a feat tied to slow bots. I think we got it in this attempt or another one. I think it's like defeat 5 of them or something like that. But the problem is with they instantly respawn, it just turns into a mess. Plus, once again, I'm not sure if it comes across in this video recording, but there's massive FPS drops here as well. Most likely just due to like the amount in the small room. We got all the lasers, the slow bots, their beams, Parasite, everything else. So I don't think it's related just to test serve itself. I think it's actually related to the instance. But other than that, it's a pretty straightforward fight. I mean, the Parasite in this one, at least, is better than the previous version that we fought him with. But it's much more so room mechanics here with the slow bots and the lasers. It'll be interesting the direction that they take this for Elite Plus, because this would certainly be a much more annoying fight in Elite Plus, especially with, like, say, if any of these lasers... Right now, if the lasers touch you, it's like, I think it's like 200k, maybe 150k or so. That's why I'm running Hard Light Shield as well, just for the extra protection. But I feel like in Elite Plus it would definitely be like a near one-shot, so it doesn't give you much flexibility at all. But other than that, all you can do is just straight burn to the boss. As you can see, there's like 4 or 5 slow bots up. They'll just keep spawning. They actually have quite a bit of health as well, so there's really no point to even kill them. And then, of course, I stand up and I'm still in the radius of the beam, which is quite frustrating in itself. But in terms of my overall impression of Alert, I mean, yes, it's the Hall of Doom. Yes, we've seen this before, but at the same time, the bosses itself is at least new. You'll see towards the end as well. So I'm not sure. Once again, I kind of covered this in my raid video, but I have no idea what kind of like the storyline they're kind of following here, or how the storyline of this Hall of Doom alert ties into anything. But in terms of the alert itself, yes, we've had better alerts in the past. We've had worse alerts. So I mean, I would think this is par for the course. It's certainly not bad. It definitely has potential. Like the reason, well, some alerts we have issues with is that there's, and I still think I know this is kind of like almost like a broken record at this point because I kind of bring it up continually. But as long as you have the foundation in the alert or instance or raid or duo itself, then it's much easier to actually make it more engaging and more challenging. If you have something that doesn't have any sort of foundation, then it's basically, oh, you're grasping at straws how to make it more difficult, which is like increased health pools, adding unnecessary ads, adding like random mechanics. So I feel like this one certainly does have potential. Just feeling right now there's instances with the self. I mean, you could tone down the ads, you can tone down removing the turret, you can tone down those slow bots as well. But I think it's more just when not only the lag on live server with that's been going on in the game presently, but also the either the FPS drops here or related to the content. I feel it's going to be much more straightforward. In terms of what my overall impressions are of the episode, I mean, I still have to reserve those because we haven't, the duo is not presently live. The alert raids themselves, we completed them, but there are some bugs to it where not so much makes it overly more difficult, but there's some tuning issues. So once those are fixed and corrected, plus there's no renown right now, so there's not much point of farming elite raids besides just providing feedback. But overall, I think it's still going to be a much better episode than previously episode 46 going forward. So I think we do have that. We also have the 2 artifacts, which we'll be covering as well. I don't really cover the artifacts immediately once they're released because there's always going to be changes. So I really don't want to release multiple videos. Like if I cover like the initial kind of artifacts and then they change drastically, then I have to make another video, and then people may have seen or based their impressions on the first video. So really the same thing with artifacts and allies. I kind of wait towards the end. Not ideally, but that's basically how it ends up happening. So I don't want to necessarily cover something that's going to change and then lead into issues. So same thing, like going into before, we fought these sentry bots before, now we fight the sentry bots again with like the gas in the room. So really it's just adding like an extra probably 2-3 minutes that are necessary. Like we've already fought these 2 sentry blasters before. Why do we need to fight them again before the last final boss? It just basically adds extra time. Especially if you're running like an unoptimized group, where if it's going to be like, tank healer, 2 DPS, or if you're running 1 DPS, troller, tank healer, the damage is just going to be lower then and take longer. So it's really something you still have to kind of, like if it's taking us this much time with 3 DPS, yeah, of course we're under geared technically for elite, but I mean, it's not going to make that massive of a difference. But if it's taken, this long, same thing with these exploder bots that you saw me die from the hallways before. It seems like from FFE when you got those like the spider drones, where basically as soon as they get proximity, they just start their exploding, which doesn't help me as water because I have crashing wave on, so I teleport. So that was a noob death on my part. The other funny part is, so basically the door opens for the final boss without having us to defeat the security turrets, but, I mean, they're going to keep us in combat anyway. But the other parts, the doors didn't open. So a final boss here, we're fighting Sinestro, Cheetah, Bane, and Grodd. Obviously they're controlled by Brainiac. I guess that's kind of the concept here, is where we're in the Hall of Doom and they're controlling the villains. So this is where the boss fight gets a little bit more interesting. Yes, there's massive FPS drops too, which doesn't help, and that's why we had to switch to a healer. But this is certainly interesting, where it kind of reminds me of previous alerts where we kind of fight, like in this case, like mini bosses. So especially in Elite Pluses would be maybe even a 2-tank thing. So each has its own individual mechanic. Grodd's mental blasts I don't believe are working properly. Grodd wasn't really causing much issues at all. I mean, Cheetah's going to lunge out at you. Bane has these really annoying attacks where he basically pulls you in. He does his like shockwave and stomp smash. You've got Sinestro, which basically encases you and puts some dots on you as well. So really, it was a fight that we felt we had to do with a healer. just because the amount of damage, especially on the tank. Because I mean, you've got basically 4 mini bosses. You've got the different alternating beams. I haven't actually seen the blue beam yet. I know that was in previous run, or I mean, it was basically just a power drain anyway, so it wasn't too much of an issue. But these bosses themselves don't have that much health. I mean, you'll see how quickly they're dying compared to, like, say, Parasite, which, I mean, could be related to the self-heal with Parasite, or it could be related to something else. I mean, Parasite was always a bit of a tanky boss, but doing no damage himself. But this same thing. I mean, I like this because it seems like it's really chaotic on the screen. It is. I mean, that's what I do like about alerts. I mean, raids is different because you've got so much extra players. But when it's an alert and it's only 4 players, when it's kind of like organized chaos, that's why I like the One Who Laughs fight in the Bad Metal Laughs fight. One Who Laughs. So we've got, you know, the Bad Metal Laughs. You got the Dark Robins. You've got the Dark Knights. So it seems like it's really a chaos going on. You got room mechanics, like same thing. The One Who Laughs. You had that poison field, and you had everything else to worry about, and then you're worrying about the bosses as well. So it's really, I like these instances because it's a shorter fight. It's like 5 minutes, 5 minutes or less. It's kind of that controlled chaos where you've got, you know, you got bombs going off. You got room mechanics. There's the blue laser there. So this is what I like about alerts, and that's why even though if it's the room that we've seen before and say like Hall of Doom, it's just a room. All it is just graphics. Like, it doesn't really matter. What actually matters is the content. Like, when you're actually in the alert itself and playing it, you're not concerning yourself with what the room looks like or what the wall textures or graphics look like. You're actually looking at the instances and the counters and the mechanics themselves. So that's where I feel like this alert is one of the better ones. Once it gets a bit, you know, when these FPS drops are fixed, because that's super annoying, and that's an issue for a lot of players, especially tank. I mean, how can you be a tank and, you know, try to cancel raid crash or anything like that when you have like massive FPS skips and drops? But especially, I think for Elite Plus, I mean, Elite Plus, I mean, we're assuming that it's coming. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but most likely they always delay it from the initial release, like a couple weeks or a month when the Elite Plus comes out. But I feel like this one, we do have a lot of potential. Because just imagine, you know, Elite Plus, you're fighting 4 basically mini bosses themselves, plus having to deal with room mechanics or anything else that they add. As long as they don't add those slow bots, because that would be ridiculous. The only thing now with Bane up last, you can see the shield. We weren't exactly sure what the shield was doing. There's no sort of ad that would proc the shield. It just seems like he was the last one left, so he got like a buff essentially. I haven't run it a second time to see if we'd kill a different order if the last boss gets the shield. I mean, that would make sense. Kind of like the last boss alive kind of gets a buff again from Brainiac. There just wasn't seem to be kind of any indication of this. And then, of course, now there's the bombs. There's the lasers that move quite quick, so you're actually having to completely roll around. So that's what it kind of ties into that. I call it like organized chaos. But I definitely do feel that it's going to be one of the better alerts. I just don't feel like it should be, like, you know, like a 20, 30-minute alert. There's definitely some times where they could cut that artificial length. But other than that, I've got the 8-player, the second one, the containment ship. We'll have that later on today. And then hopefully we can cover the duo next week. I'll cover the open world missions. We'll start covering the artifacts as well. And then I've got some other videos that I was going to talk about as well. So definitely stay tuned. Every single detail about the new episode I will be covering on this channel. So you can look forward to that anytime. If you also have questions about the episode, feel free to ask them. There's some that I don't know yet, like say like max CR, when the release date is, you know, stuff like that. That's all going to be covered in time once I have access to that information. So take care, guys. As always, thanks you for watching.
At least one more thing to plan out and then achieve this goal. Data from within the whole of justice. We must assume that is his next target. Decisive action must be taken, and I will take it.